Morning, everybody. Welcome to the OK Grognard Show. It is Sunday, October 11th, 2020, 10 a.m. Central or thereabouts. Beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. It's Rules Retrospective Day because it's Sunday. We like to look back at some aspect of the rules and kick it around a little bit, check the tires, see what we think of it, think about it in terms of what it does for the rules as they are written, what it does for the rules as they're interpreted, what it does in relation to other rules systems and other additions, and, various angles. So today, like Geneva Games. Hey, I should say something. Well, I should probably talk about it tomorrow because it's a news and announcement sort of thing. But check in tomorrow. We'll have some announcements about things like Virtual Gamehole Con. We'll be talking about that. We'll give away another badge tomorrow. This is an announcement about Lake Geneva Games. We'll be talking about that. I don't know if it's an announcement. It's an update. Let's call it an update because I don't want to make too big a deal of it because it's not like I can say, hey, we're doing this. We've just took a look at things and, hey, batted it around, so I wanted to fill people in since people are interested, right? Autumn Revel, doing 1 o'clock today. I'm doing another session of the Insteading with the Giants, which has been a blast. I'm really digging it. It's been a lot of fun. I've been very excited about how it's been going too. It's the one last weekend at GreyhawkCon started it off, and it was a fun little slugfest, and then it got even more intense with yesterday's. Sarah's enjoyed both of them, I believe. So, hey, Luca, welcome, buddy, all the way over here, huh? From Italy. They're checking in from Italy, my friends. But yeah, this Insteading with the Giants yesterday, and we're doing it again today. It's a mini setting. We've taken all of the material from the years of the Giants stuff, going all the way back to 78, Gary's first adventure, and we've put it all in a bag and shook it up and pulled stuff out. It's 2 generations later, and the Giants have re-inhabited the valley where the remains of the steading were, and have patched it up and reoccupied it. And they're beginning to threaten civilization once again. We'll talk more about GreyhawkCon's adventure and the one from yesterday and the one from today. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Give people an update on where that's going because I've got 2 sessions lined up for Gamehole Con as well. And I may do something in between closer to my birthday. Oops, yep. Oh, did I accidentally mention my birthday's in late October? Oh, I'm so embarrassed that I let slip that little bit of information. That's such a shame. Anywho, virtual Autumn Revel has been a blast so far. It'll continue to be. I played this really fun OD&D game last night. Artanis 8242 was in on it too. Place needs an army to clear it. Yeah, right. We can import them from Dirk Collins' fun game. Bring some of our army troopers over. Get some of your medium cavalry, Lord Bitrock, and pop up there and just wipe the place out. You're gonna be 29 again. What's 29 times 2, Jeff? Because that's what I'll be. Did you see how I did that math in my head really fast? That's because I'm a gamer, and I'm used to doing math really fast in my head. So there you go. It's pretty cool. I'll tell you what, you want to get old, because in this neck of the woods around Lake Geneva, if you're 55 or older, you get 4% off at the Piggly Wiggly on Tuesdays. That's, that's money you're saving for games, my friend. So don't miss that chance. So 50 minutes instead of a half hour for today, because it's a seminar as part of the thing, and I've been rambling for a little bit. We're 5 minutes in. I do want to talk about what we're going to talk about today, and what we're going to talk about today is all about a rules retrospective. I was going to do a random one, and then I thought about it, and I said, no, let's pick something kind of meaty, something that's has changed quite a bit over the years. I thought let's look at experience, because that is a thing in OD&D. In the third booklet, it's mentioned in the first booklet because if you have a 15 or better prime requisite, 10% bonus on experience, 5% bonus at a 13 or 14. Because remember now, with that bell curve, when you're rolling 3d6, you're not rolling 4 and dropping the lowest. You're rolling 3, and you're not doing point buy. There's a way you can take 2 off of one and put it on another, but still, you have a lot more lower rolls overall. So 15 was pretty damn good. Even 13 and 14, you get some bonuses, you get some pluses, you get 5% bonus on your experience because of that being your prime requisite. And in this they didn't do, I don't recall them doing it later. Maybe I'm just forgetting. But you actually had, if you had a 7 or an 8 on your prime requisite, you got minus 10% on your overall experience, anything you gained. A 6 or less, minus 20%. Can you imagine losing 20% of your experience? Can you imagine going with a class when your prime requisite was going to wind up being a 6 or less? Well, sometimes you roll those dice, they're really crappy. And you can't be anything but a fighter, a fighting man. That was my first character, was to take a fighting man. And I'm sure I died. I have no doubt. Let me move this to the front to get rid of that shadow from my green screen crap. Anywho, this is most of the information then that is in OD&D when it comes to experience. Let's have a look at it real quick. I know we're focusing on 1E, but getting in background here. Experience points. Yeah, I'm going to make it bigger for my almost 58-year-old eyes. Experience points are awarded to players by the referee with appropriate bonuses or penalties for prime requisite scores. As characters meet monsters in Mortal Kombat and defeat them, and when they obtain various forms of treasure, money, gems, jewelry, magic items, etc., they gain experience. This adds to their experience point total, gradually moving them upwards through the levels. Gains in experience points will be relative. Thus, an 8th level magic user operating on the 5th dungeon level will be awarded 5/8 experience. Let us assume he gains 7,000 gold pieces by defeating a troll, which is a 7th level monster, as it has over 6 hit dice. So 6 plus 1 or higher would be a 7th level, count as a 7th level. Had the monster been only a 5th level one, experience would be awarded. That's a really awkward sentence, right? Had the monster been only 5th level, comma, experience would be awarded, is what it should say. Why are we editing? We're enjoying. Had the monster been only a 5th level one, experience would be awarded on a 5/8 basis, as already stated. But as the monster is guarding the treasure, and as the monster guarding the treasure was a 7th level one, experience would be awarded on a 7/8 basis. Thus, 7,000 gold pieces plus 700 for killing the troll. Hey, by the way, I double checked. I don't recall where in the books it says you get 100 points for each hit die or relative hit die of a creature that you kill. And yet here, this right here is what we can extrapolate from it, right? 700 for killing the troll equals 7,700 divided by 8 equals 962.5 times 7 is 6037.5. Experience points are never awarded above above a 1-for-1 basis. So even if a character defeats a higher level monster, he will not receive experience points above the total of treasure combined with the monster's kill value. It is also recommended that no more experience points be awarded for any single adventure than will suffice to move the character upwards 1 level. Thus, a veteran, first level, gains what would ordinarily be 5,000 experience points. However, Monty Hall Dungeon, 5,000 experience points. However, as this would move him upwards 2 levels, the referee should award only sufficient points to bring him to warrior, second level, say 3,999. That's one shy of the next level. So not just one over whatever level he gets to, but rather there's a ceiling if the character began with 0 experience points. So there we go. Boom, boom, boom. All right, double checking the chat here. Excellent game on Saturday night. Hey, thanks very much, George. Appreciate it. And placing everything. All right. Right, you're going to be 29. Yeah. We were there. 59 last week. Yikes. Oh, damn, George. All right, buddy. That's okay. You ain't 60 yet. Does that help? That didn't help, did it? Yeah. Got me by 10 years. All right. That makes you 49, huh? Jeff, all right. Got my AARP card already. Good for you, man. GP and XP versus Milestone. Yeah, we're going to talk about that, too. Never liked PB myself. Vanilla. PB. What am I missing there? I'm sure I must know. Point ball. Thank you. Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. So Larry Hamilton has a thing. He even does his house rule with first edition, whereby he allows somebody to say, well, I really want to play a ranger. Okay, we'll roll the dice. You'll put your highest where you can put your highest to try to achieve being, say, a ranger. Because a ranger has a number of minimums, if any of the die rolls are below the minimums needed, we'll raise it up just to there and we'll just pull it off of somewhere else. And that way you can still play a ranger even if you don't have the rolls. It's, it's a house roll. It's for a home campaign. You're playing with some friends. You want to make sure that they get a chance to play all the different character classes that they want to explore. Why not, right? You can do it any number of ways. Just let them keep walking into an abattoir every time they create a character they don't want because it's not a ranger yet. If you want to play that out, that's a possibility. It's certainly within the realm of possibility. I can just keep rolling up characters and have them walk directly into the town square and fall down the well. Sooner or later, that character's gone. I get to roll up a new one. Eventually, I'll roll up a ranger. But we don't have time for that. So we figure out a way to let them play a ranger, right? Still calling the DM a referee at that point, eh? Yeah, how about that? Referee. So that being the basis for it, you wonder, you don't wonder. If you read the DMG, and even the player's handbook, but more so the DMG, then you can kind of feel where the transition was between the aspirations early on of having a person running the game who was a referee, like in earlier war games, where somebody's just there to help arbitrate between both sides because war games are a competition. In this case, going into this game, as this rule set became a thing, the referee was meant to facilitate the visualization of the world, and also to arbitrate between the players and get the rules right so that the world was fair for them to explore, or at least had some sort of consistency to it. I guess it's hard to say. You don't want to say it's going to be fair. You don't want to say it's necessarily not going to be unpredictable. And yet here we are with the referee, and then we become a dungeon master when we're in the first edition, or actually, I'm sure that term gets thrown about earlier than that. Um, but there you are. There was this thinking that you had to be in charge of everything. So it changed. And that comes down to doling out experience too, right? Because some of it is arbitrary. If you don't kill a monster, what if you kill a bunch of trolls, but they regenerate? There's the example. The troll's right there. Trolls regenerate. It says 700 for killing the troll. It doesn't say you have to burn the remains and make sure it doesn't come back. By the letter of the rules, you could keep a troll in a room and just keep killing it over and over and over with crossbow bolts through a hole in the door. Is it a challenge? No. But you're killing it. So what up with that? Once it's dead, you go in, pull your bolts, go back out, lock the door, wait for it to regenerate, boom, do it again. 700, 700, 700. Now, of course, you'd have to do that 7 layers under the ground. Otherwise, you've got to make sure you're on the right level of a dungeon to get the full experience for it, right? Once you get up higher levels, too, it's going to diminish no matter what happens. So that's the formula. But you can get up a few levels, right? Maybe you set up a business in town where you rent the room out, or just rent the crossbow out and you have the room. Maybe you take their you hold on to their charge card. You hold on to a big sack of gold, and you make them pay for each crossbow bolt that it takes for them to do it. And if any of the crossbow bolts break in the process, because there is a possibility of them breaking, then they pay double for that bolt. Each bolt is, I don't know, what's 700 experience worth? 5e, XP is fixed. There you go. So, level 1 or level 20, whatever the CR is, determines the XP for it. Of course, CR is woefully broken in 5e. Well, you know. CR is a concept that is meant to be somewhat nebulous so that it can be arbitrated in some ways by the DM. It's not meant to be cut and dry. I know there's this sort of pretense that if we write some rules and make them more detailed, they can't be vague then, right? The more words I use, the less vague something is. Well, we know that's not true, or we would all have read and understood War and Peace. I think the real point being, though, that it has changed over time. I think the big change in experience now, of course, when we get into first edition, things don't change all too much, right? Because you're still getting experience when it comes to monsters slain, and you're still getting experience for treasure gained. That continues. It really does change when you get up into 3rd edition and onward. And that alone makes experience points kind of a touchy subject with some people when you've got different senses of which edition did it best. Let's see, we get a few people in the chat. Why don't each of you chime in for what you think is the best way to do experience? Hey, and don't forget, there have been some experimental experience things like had to be a few years into 5th edition. They did a Sage Unearthed Arcana thing on the 3 pillars of experience, right? What was that one all about? That had something to do with it was a playtest thing, gaining levels. Where's that? Maybe I have that still. All right, earning experience points. They talk about dividing experience, but they talk about earning it for exploration, social interaction, and combat. And I believe they suggest you do it equally, though, of course, if your campaign focuses on one or two of the other, you focus more on them. So that was an interesting attempt at divvying it up. Of course, social interaction and exploration are not treasure gained. Combat is not treasure gained. So they still were staying away from that. But looking at the 1st edition DMG, text on actual experience. Adjustment and division of experience points. The judgment factor is inescapable with respect to weighting experience for some points gained from slaying monsters and or gaining treasure. You must weigh the level of a challenge, CR, proto-CR, be it thinking or fighting, versus the level of experience of the player characters who gained it. With respect to monsters, each hit die balances 1 experience level, counting each special ability and each exceptional ability as an additional hit die. It also counting any hit point bonus as an additional hit die, dividing all total adjusted hit die equivalent of the monster slain and total of all levels of experience of the characters who had a part. Even if only 1 missile, 1 blow, 1 spell, etc., in the slaying yields a fraction, which is the measure of the challenge. If the numerator is greater than the denominator, then full experience should be awarded. If the denominator is greater, use the fraction to adjust the amount of experience by simple multiplication. Note, it may be necessary to adjust character levels in the same manner as is done with monster hit dice in order to gain a true evaluation, as, for example, 12 orcs are not equal to a wizard. Therefore, the following rule applies. If the average hit dice or level is 10 times greater than the average level or hit dice, there must be an adjustment of at least halving or doubling the experience points award as the circumstances dictate, except if the lesser group is approximately 20 times more numerous than the greater value group. 20 orcs must prove troublesome to a wizard, but even that is subject to circumstances of the encounter. So we can't put 20 orcs in a room next to the troll and get experience for them too. Can't get experience for the troll either. If it's in a locked room and you're just plunking it with arrows, fish in a barrel. So, this is an example of a lot more words used for doing exactly what we just saw in the AD&D rules, which is explaining the formula to use for divvying up the experience and making sure that you take into account the level and difficulty for those particular characters. Tricking or outwitting monsters or overcoming tricks and or traps placed to guard treasure must be determined subjectively, with level of experience balanced against the degree of difficulty you assign to the gaining of the treasure. So, Bilbo goes into the cave and manages to steal the Arkenstone from Smaug. absolutely crazy difficult, absolutely the toughest thing he's ever done in his life, incredibly brave, and on top of that, extremely valuable treasure. So he gets to go up one level and up to 1 point away from yet gaining a second level. Because that Arkenstone's one of the most valuable things in all of Middle Earth. Certainly it's worth enough experience. Certainly that was a difficult enough challenge. Whatever we evaluate it as, he's going up almost 2 levels. Gotta be. Let's see what we've got in the chat. A few people have been chiming in on regard to that. They're pushing milestone now. I think that's why they don't care. CR is broken. I use milestone in my tomb campaign. Says Artanis8242, there are supposed to be certain levels at certain points, right? So if they need to be a certain level for it to be a balanced, whatever that means, adventure or a challenge for them, as well as balance, not to be a meat grinder, then they got to be that level going in. Jeff says, I've never played with Milestone as a player or a DM. Of course, last time I was a regular player was 20 years ago. Yeah, they weren't really doing Milestone stuff. I think they actually started teasing that toward the end of the 3.xe era, and I think it got implemented as a possible way, an optional way of doing it during 4th edition, but it really didn't come into its own until 5th edition, I don't think. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I didn't play enough 4th edition to be aware of it as being very popular, but... George says, back to fractions. RPG, war games, and math are all linked. It's true. Jeff also says, I'm thinking about trying it out, milestones for Curse of Strahd game. Yeah, give it a go. And after you've had some more experience with it, make sure to update us, because information from the field is data points that you really, really want more than just theorizing on stuff. I think 3.5e it was an option. Okay, yeah, maybe it was. I don't. I tended to stick with core. I still always have and always will. Tend to stick with core. I add in things sometimes piecemeal, but not a lot. So when you're talking about rules that are optional toward the end of the run, when the rules bloat is really setting in and they're churning out the books to make a fast buck before the system changes, then things that are in those, I probably don't see most of those. So I've played a few milestone campaigns. Chomping you live. Hey, dude. All right. Thanks, or dudette, whatever the case may be. Thanks for chiming in. I played a few milestone campaigns, and while I get the appeal, I like the factor of gaining XP better. Yeah, not everybody enjoys the bookkeeping aspect of regular experience point tallies, but even those people that don't like it can't deny that it is a tangible way of knowing how well you're doing in the game, and also of continuing to feel like you're excelling. The more you get, the more you feel like you're moving up in the world, right? Sarah mentions on that last comment, agreed. It just feels like milestones reward railroading. But I will still use it. That's interesting. Expand on that a little bit. If I'm reading what you're saying correctly, or understanding what you're saying correctly, you are saying with milestones, we're getting to the beginning and end of each section of a campaign, and you're going up in levels And we're telling this story no matter what happens. And we're moving it along, and you're coming along for the ride. Yeah, I can see how you'd think of that as railroading, because it sure sounds like it. If a DM sits down on the table and he already knows the story that's going to be told, you're taking the game part out of role playing games. And I know my buddy Bill Petrosky will probably boot me in the nards for saying so, but first and foremost, I think you've got to honor the game part of the role playing. Role playing is an aspect of the game, right? The game is not a tacked on thing for the role playing. Role playing is an adjective to a noun. So it is a description of how the game is partially played to distinguish it from war games, board games, role playing games. So when you play a game, you can't know the outcome, or it's not a game. You can't know in advance. I mean, you can be pretty damn sure that Seattle Seahawks are going to kick someone's ass pretty fast, but should have said Packers, right? I am in Wisconsin. But you can't know for sure. Otherwise, it is not a game. So, ergo, my assertion always that story is a byproduct of games. You play the game, whatever happens becomes the story. You can't plot stuff like that out. You can throw in story elements and let the players interact with those as they will and how they do that, and you can interpret what the appropriate consequences of those actions will be, or do it randomly. Figure out 5 different things and pick one that you like. Figure out 5 different things and roll a die, and if you roll a 6, roll over. The bottom line is, though, unless it is in some way random, it's not a game. So, yeah, Sarah, I totally get it. It's kind of a railroady sort of thing. And you say milestones mean off the beaten trail adventures don't matter. You are pushing people to certain places, and they know you don't level up going anywhere else. Well, okay, that's also kind of the conceit. You're right. There's a kind of a meta social contract that as long as they come and sit down at the table while everybody else is doing whatever they're doing, when it gets to the end of whatever it is they were supposed to be doing, everybody moves up. Everybody moves up. What does Lucas say? Thanks for coming from Italy, buddy. PXs have effect on different players in different ways, for good or for ill. Milestones flatten the thrill, is what you're saying, right? Yeah. Yeah, I can get that. Maybe I just suck at DMing though, working on. No, Sarah, you do not. There's no way you do. I know enough from having played with you and from just that statement you just made that you're a very aware DM who is engaged with their game and with their players, and that's the whole of it. After that, the rest is just flapping your gums, right? And Jeff says, old school players, myself included, tend to favor the XP system. It's like an incremental gauge to see where you are. They start wondering, how come I haven't leveled up if I've killed all this stuff? Milestones seem to imply the group is at a level X and capability Y, and we should only go this way, George is saying. There should be and will be encounters where the players are overwhelmed or ill prepared, and the XP should be for knowing when and how to pull it out. Right? So, do the deeds, gain the experience, right? You don't just get them. You don't just gain levels. You have to be engaged as players. And if there's milestones, how engaged do you have to be? You rolled a hit. Roll a die. I rolled this. Did I hit? Did I not hit? Doesn't matter. How engaged can you be when it doesn't necessarily matter? Now, of course, this is not to say that you cannot lose, that you cannot be killed. Because even in a game that focuses on milestones, right? Let's throw a little more light on here when I back up. I think it's getting darker outside. Even if you're playing in a milestone game, if you're letting the dice of the creatures that are attacking you do what they're supposed to do, it's possible for player characters to die, right? There can be a TPK. Is it enough? Does that offset the idea that if you survive, you're going to gain a level enough if there's a possibility of death, right? So does individual action to action, moment to moment agency make it a game? Or does the fact that all things considered, my character could live, my character could die, whether I'm engaged or not, the fact that I can die, does that make it a game? Is there, now that there's something riding on it? I don't know. Maybe it's not enough. And Jeff jumps back in. Conversely, I've heard it said that it discourages murder hobos. Okay, now there's a good point, right? Murder hobos, and we're talking about experience here, and this all fits in, right? Basically, the concept of murder hobos is that there are adventurers who are out to gain experience by any means possible. They will go around, they'll kill farmers, they'll kill the farmers' chickens, they'll kill the fox if they catch it in the hen house when they're in there killing the chickens. Will they raise eggs to become chickens just so they can kill them? Well, I don't know. I don't think so. Plus, I think just about every edition of the rules has these caveats in there where if it's not a challenge, if you're shooting fish in a barrel, then experience can't be gained. However, if a first level fighter goes into a tavern, starts a fight with the bartender is a capable enough brawler, and then it gets out of hand, and brawler picks up a knife, and you punch him out and finish him off. Is that experience? Murder hobo experience? If you kill the local NPCs, provided that there's enough danger there, provided that if they retaliate, they could conceivably kill you, does that then make them worthy of you being allowed to gain experience from the killing of them? And we're leaving alignment totally off to the side on this, on all these examples with murder hobos, because that's a whole nother thing. If you're in my campaign and you're evil, you become an NPC. I don't allow people to start with evil characters. If their characters do evil things, they're no longer player characters, and at the end of the session, they become an NPC, and you roll up a new one. If you do that 2, 3, 4 times, and it's just going to be a habit, you're probably not playing in my game anymore, because I don't like players being evil. It treads on my turf, because evil, villains, monsters are the purview of the DM IMO. So there you go. Soul Free Wolf. Am I saying that right? I hope so. Good morning. I modified the White Wolf XP chart. Hey, okay. Oops, I'm going to try to get your name here. There we go. Nope, can't quite do it. Try it again. There we go. You say, I modified the White Wolf XP chart to D&D to reward for role-playing versus role-playing. Yes and yeah versus ROLL, right? Sure. A wizard studying should reward XP as well, or a cleric performing daily rituals. Okay, that's interesting. Um, then we get into a question of that caveat, right? Do you gain experience for things that aren't a challenge? If uh, if my second level cleric spends all his time in town and all I'm doing is washing the feet of the poor, well, sure, I'm clericing after a fashion, but is that challenging on some level that in the system that requires XP to be only be given for things that are challenging the player characters? I don't know that it has to be life threatening, but it has to be dangerous to some degree, according to what we're reading. For D&D anyway, is that then challenging enough for the characters that they should be able to gain experience? Now, if what you're doing is converting experience from another rule system, then you're fundamentally mashing the two rule sets together. And then at that point, you're saying, well, I like combat from D&D and I like the spell system, but I like the experience gaining system from White Wolf. I'm going to guess that's most of the systems all use the same one, right? He follows up and says, yeah, it's the DM's job to award them and should use discretion. Okay, well, daily rituals, though, you were saying? A cleric performing daily rituals? A wizard studying? Do those count as for your games? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying when you run a game, are those the kind of things that people can get experience for? Jeff chimes back in and says, I mean, we've had 4+ hour long sessions that didn't even include one single combat session. Yeah, how about it? On more than one occasion. Sarah and I just played in an OD&D game last night where there was a lot of intrigue. We were all in charge of different city states or their equivalent, and we were fifth level OD&D, ostensibly this close to being lords and ladies or whatever you want to say. Leaders we were, and we were in charge of communities and armies and economies, and we played for 4 hours, and no, not a shot was fired. There wasn't any combat whatsoever. But the way Dirk Collins runs his OD&D games, um, similar to some of the OD&D games that were run back in the day by like Arneson and Gygax, um, with a kind of a campaign world overview, experience was also given for running a community and stuff. You could, as leaders of these various things, get together and say, "Hey, let's take a day off from running the communities and go jump into the dungeon," and you could go gain experience that way in a more traditional D&D style of gaining experience. But there was also a discretionary um, experience gaining system set up by those guys, and Dirk does this too for his own, and has set up his own way of doing it for properly running a community, making gains within the community. My own character was um, attempting to increase the population of the town and increase their agriculture. I think Sarah's was trying to set up a trading coalition and gain knowledge of shipbuilding so that her merchant fleet could be expanded. And then there were several other players doing additional things. Um, Jobs. Personally, I reward non-combat solutions. Okay, so yeah, sneak around the trolls. Do you have to get their treasure to get that XP, or do you just have to get away from them and on with something pressing? I mean, we can avoid a fight and never actually go do anything, or we can avoid a fight on the way to a goal, and suddenly avoiding that fight means something more in the big picture, right? So, are we talking about, and as an addendum to that, If we avoid that fight and gain nothing directly by it, like the treasure on the way to this goal, is it the same as if we go there, avoid a fight, get some treasure, and then just go back, but we've got no higher goal? We're just going to get the treasure. Is that the goal in and of itself? Does that warrant the experience gain? When all is said and done, if the DM and players are having fun and are engaged, yeah, okay, George, absolutely true. If people are having fun, I think that's something that we're all kind of I don't want to say taking for granted. I think we're all on the same page when it comes to having fun. If we're not having fun, we're not doing it right. We're not playing. We should probably be doing some other activity. So yeah, let's assume everybody's saying that we're having fun, but on top of it, how do we have that fun? So, and are engaged and looking forward to the next game and doing what you're doing is right. Sure. Cleric has to take 1 hour to perform a ritual, and it awards 25 experience. Character level, it's more bonus XP, similar to a thief giving XP for gold. Okay, so Soul Free Wolf, in the games that you are running and playing in and such, uh, thieves, by stealing gold, can gain XP for gold. What if a cleric decides to steal some gold? What if a magic user casts Hold Person on somebody and then pulls everything out of their pockets and walks away? And there's a 100 gold piece gem. Do they get experience for that gem? Or is that only something a thief can do in those circumstances? Is it profession and or class specific to be able to gain experience in those manners? If a cleric is performing a ritual, washing the feet of the poor, for instance, say, and can gain experience doing that. If a thief goes and does that, can they gain experience for that? Or because it's not their profession, is it not allowed for them? Sarah jumps back in and says, I like the idea of the experience gaining that way that Soul Free Wolf has suggested. My cleric never prays to his god. Seems like good motivation, right? Jeff also says, if you get stopped by some ogres and manage to slick talk your way into getting by versus going into combat, it's the same XP reward to me. Okay. That's the example I was just talking about, where you have to be on your way to something. Is there have to be a reason why you want to get by them rather than just avoiding a combat that is just out there. Who is Nafar? Let's do that. I want to add your name over on our list here. Hey, and by the way, everybody who's in here, do me a favor. Please do follow the channel. We keep a list of everybody who is chimed in on Stream Chat that is also a follower of the channel. And we do a weekly giveaway. It's just our way of making sure that we have people that are engaged and also that they are not bots. So, but chiming in on the Stream Chat, you'd cover that. But you might as well reap the reward. Make sure you follow the channel. And next week, I think we got a couple more weeks of giving away a badge to Virtual Gamehole Con. So, good deal. You'll enjoy that. It'll be fun. Even if you don't like to play games online, you can jump in on some seminars and enjoy these kind of discussions like we're having right here. Because things are resolved without combat, I like rewarding milestone levels to show progress in plot points. I enjoy the milestone over XP, but it all depends on my players and the game they enjoy to play. Fair enough. Interesting. Sarah says, in regards to what Jeff was saying about the ogres and gaining experience for avoiding them, but just for the slick talker, right? The experience, all right, there's only one person who's doing the slick talking when you're getting past the ogre, but he's got 3 or 4 other adventurers going along. Do they all get the experience because Slick Talker did that? Uh, do they all have to be part of the talking or involved in some way? Profession or class based, says Sulfrey Wolf regarding that question I asked earlier. Old school D&D awarded XP for thieves for gold. Yeah, awarded XP for gold for everyone. 2E I know does, not sure 1E. Yeah, no, any treasure gained counts for experience. So gold piece value of a pile of gems you got, gold piece value of a pile of gold pieces. That's all treasure gained, and treasure gained experience. Jeff says, no, it's divided among the whole party. I mean, would you only reward the PC that did all the damage? How about the healer that cleans up after the combat is over? Well, I think George will tell you when I missed 5 rounds in a row until my spiritual hammer disappeared, I still would have been in the fight. I was still taking damage if they swung. I was still potentially a target. So there you go. Yeah, I threw it in there. Hey, Boffrin, how you doing? Good to have you here. Thank you. Let's add you in on the list as well. Typically, those are planned combats, not the random ones. Okay, yeah, and there's another thing, too, right? We can talk about if there should be a difference in your mind for gaining experience from Wandering Monster, a random encounter, rather than a planned one. Do they equal up? If I have a Wandering Monster encounter that is incredibly tough and winds up with gleaning no treasure, and I get some measly hit die experience off of this creature or creatures that I kill, or worse, what if there are a bunch of low level ones and by virtue of fighting them it creates a huge to do, and now everything on the dungeon level knows I'm here. I had to fight these measly kobolds, and it took all this noise, and I gained almost no experience from the kobolds because I'm a 5th level fighter on the 5th level of a dungeon, and it didn't take long, but it was noisy, and now everything else is alerted, and everything else becomes tougher because of this fight. How is this fight not something that figures in as being truly something that I've literally gained experience? Not even experience points, but literally I've gained experience. I know after this experience as a young player that I should not be making noise like this on a level, right? So that's a whole nother aspect to gaining experience that you have to discuss. Anywho, we've had fun. We've talked quite a bit about it. We've looked at treasure taking, convert all metal and gems to jewelry and total value. We talked about that. And players who balk here. Let's read this before we go. We can go just a minute or two long. Oh, it's 11:01. If you got to go, you got to go. Thanks for stopping by. I'll be signing off right after I check this out. You can check it out on YouTube later if you want. But if you got a game you got to go to, please do. Don't let me make you late. Players who balk at equating gold pieces to experience points should be gently but firmly reminded that in a game, certain compromises must be made. While it is more realistic for clerics to study holy writings, pray, chant, practice self-discipline, etc., to gain experience, it would not make a playable game roll along. Similarly, fighters should be exercising riding, smiting pelts, tilting at the list, and engaging in weapon practice of various sorts to gain real experience, parenthetically speaking. Magic users should be deciphering old scrolls, searching ancient tomes, experimenting alchemically, and so forth, while thieves should spend their off hours honing their skills, casing various buildings, watching potential victims, and carefully planning their next job. All very realistic, but conducive to non-game boredom. So, counter to what you were saying about utilizing the White Wolf system to throw experience their way for performing clerical rituals, for doing studying as a wizard, and so forth, Gary's contention was that that doesn't make for a good game. That isn't action packed enough. I'm sure was his intention there to say that unless we're in combat, unless we're out exploring with the chance of danger all around us, if we're just sitting down and studying spells and stuff, well, that might be what traditional experience should encompass. That is not to say that that should translate directly to experience points in game. So it may be that part of the disconnect between what we're using to tally gaining of levels, gaining of experience, gaining of just surviving is not enough. Surviving real danger is where you gain experience. And if we named it something else, life credits, right? Instead of experience points or something like that, do we then have the same arguments about, well, wizards should gain experience for studying stuff? Is that still an argument if we change it to life credits? What if we change it to game awards? These are game award points. So if we specifically tie the name of what we're using for a tally to game awards, then is wizard studying, or a cleric doing rituals, or a fighter tilting in the lists, is that now still something where you can gain game award points? Anyway, food for thought. We can revisit this again because this is a fascinating subject, and there's certainly plenty more to talk about, especially in regard to a breakdown in the first edition experience points given for creatures. There's a lot of guidelines, and there's examples, and there's all sorts of additional stuff, and then special bonus awards. So we've got more. We've got a lot more we can get back to later on. I want to thank everybody, though, for... Oop, no, that's the wrong one. Let's go this one. I want to thank everybody for stopping in, for checking it out, for joining us on the stream today. I very much appreciate it. I think I've got all of you on the list for the drawing for next Monday, so feel free to stop by next Monday. Well, come by every time, every day, because we're here 10 a.m. every day of the week, 10 a.m. Central. Here's the schedule. That's always important to check out. We've got tomorrow, weekly news and announcements. We do cartography and world building on Tuesday. Campaign discussion is on Wednesday. GMing tips on Thursday. Building adventures on Friday. GM reviews on Saturday. Back around the horn to Sunday for rules retrospective. If you're here, please do follow the channel on Twitch and chime in on the stream chat. If you are catching up with us on YouTube, please do subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up and feel free to make a comment, because constructive criticism always helps make the show better, and we appreciate it very, very much. Thank you, everybody, from the OK Grognard Show in beautiful Lake Geneva. Bye-bye.